Hi, everybody. We have probably one of the biggest webinars we've ever done with Trafera today, mainly in part because we have the amazing speaker, amazing guy, Matt Miller here, who's going to talk with us about yeah, sticky, brain-friendly teaching tools with Google. So we're so excited.
It's really because everybody wants to be techie as heck. That's really why. That's
Exactly.
really what's going on.
And because everyone wants coffee, of course. So
that too. Yes.
Exactly.
For sure.
So for anybody new here, welcome. We're so excited to meet you guys. Me and Josh, we are from a company called Trafera, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but mainly we're just here to talk with Matt. I'll just do a couple housekeeping bits right off the top of the hour. The biggest thing is, if you do want to claim that Starbucks gift card, I do need you to stick around until the end. We have a little bit of an exit survey for you all to take, just to answer just a few questions. And once you do that, you'll be qualified for that gift card. So definitely stick around till the end for that. And then the other part is, if you have questions throughout the session, just pop them in the chat. I will be looking at that. Josh will be looking at that, and Matt will be busy talking, but we'll get the questions to him either throughout the presentation or at the end for Q&A. But I know for 100% fact that none of you came here to listen to me talk, so I'm going to pass it off to my friend Josh. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Listen, I love what Denise is doing. A couple of other, Amber, you guys are killing it. Let's fire up the chat. I want to know, say hello to the group. Let us know where you're joining from. That's always fun. I'm in the hills of West Virginia, and if you've not been here yet, what are you waiting on? You should get out here. So today is going to be a topic. I know you all love Matt just as much as I do. He and I have kind of been dear friends over the last few months and hopefully years to come. So you know the presenter at the topic. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite things that we love about Google. And I'm going to jump in and co-present a little bit with Matt too. So Matt, fire us up, man. Let's get going.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. Just wanted to do a couple of quick shout outs to the folks in the chat right now. So if you're here live with us, hello. I noticed that Amber is from Indianapolis, fellow Hoosier. So I'm just very excited to see that. My friend Denise from California is here, and I can see her smiling face on her camera. Hi, Denise. So we got lots of others. Lindsay's here from Louisiana. Lisa's here from Modesto, California. Good to see you. Rachel from Phoenix, Arizona, where I just came back from. I was just working with teachers in Tempe, Arizona schools just 2 days ago, actually. So Jennifer's here from Sunnyvale, Texas. Brian from Porterville, California. California's representing. But so is the Midwest, because Jennifer's here from Iowa to join me as a fellow Midwesterner, and Erica from Omaha, Nebraska. Stephanie's here from Kentucky. Brigitte is here from Chicago, and so on and so forth. I could spend the whole time just like reading names and saying hi to everybody, but we're here for something else. We want to chat with you all a little bit about this topic of the day, which is sticky brain-friendly learning with Google. So if you've got Google Workspace tools that you have access to, and if you like kids to learn things, and not forget them, and for that learning to be meaningful, then you are in the right place. So what we're going to share with you today are 4 brain-friendly strategies that you can use with a variety of those Google Workspace tools, as well as some of the nice features that you can get, like, for instance, with practice sets and some of the Google Classroom add-ons and everything. We've got lots of things to share with you there. And good news, I love the fact that Trafera does this. If you, like you see on the screen right there, if you stick around until the end and complete an exit survey, you get a $5 Starbucks gift card. So jump back into that chat real quick, because I want to see, like, do we have big coffee fans? Like, tell me what you're going to buy with $5 of Starbucks. I mean, Starbucks is getting expensive these days. It's getting a little bit harder to get much of anything, but $5 will definitely get you well on the way to, like what Victoria says, pumpkin flavored something. I totally get that. And then looks like Kate, oh my goodness, Kate from Trafera has a fellow, like, favorite drink from Starbucks. She says the shaken brown sugar oat milk espresso is heaven, and I totally agree with that. That's one of my favorites to get too. So I'm seeing lots of lattes in there. Kara's like a matcha latte or a pumpkin chai. You all are fancy. Like I usually just go in there and I get drip coffee. I'm boring. So anyway, quick introductions, because we've done a little bit of that, but not like totally. Presentation will be driven by yours truly, Matt Miller, educator, author of 6 books, textbook ditcher, creator of the Ditch That Textbook website, speaker, blogger, so on and so forth. Former high school Spanish teacher for more than 10 years here in little bitty Indiana. Well, a little bitty part of Indiana anyway. And then my esteemed colleague, Josh Ratliff, former educator, current teacher, trainer, specializing in tech integration, director of education strategy at Trafera. There he is waving right there. And Josh, where did you say, can you come off mute real quick and tell us, where did you say you're coming to us from today?
I'm in Fairmont, West Virginia, which is a fun place because we have a NASA center. I'm not going to be able to show you this outside the window, but there are really fun satellite dishes where they like observe space weather and all kinds of stuff. So there's a little bit happening right here, but it's thrilling to be here. I always love hanging out with you, Matt. So we're going to have a good time together.
Right? Yeah, no, likewise. I agree with you. And so we're going to be focusing on this central question during our presentation today. How can we make learning stick with Google Workspace? You know, of course, you know, cognitive science and brain research and everything have a lot to tell us about the way that the brain learns. And the sad thing is that sometimes in our education practice, we don't always either know what cognitive science tells us about learning, or we just don't apply it. So I wanted to share with you some of my faves and some ways that you can use Google to do them. So let's just dive right into them, shall we? We're going to start out with number 1, which is timely feedback. And this is something we've been learning about a lot. You know, especially with the advent of educational technology, it makes it possible for kids to get timely feedback, you know, get it faster. We can scale it because it's not always dependent completely on the teacher doing it one-to-one with the student work and everything. So like it says here on the screen, timely feedback meets students at the time that they're most invested in learning. And what time are they most invested in learning? Right now, right away, you know, like right as they're doing it, that's the time that they're most invested in getting that feedback. So they'll, like it says, they'll never be more motivated to make changes than they are right now. So giving them that in-time feedback can be huge. There is an article on ASCD by the late Grant Wiggins that talks about 7 keys to effective feedback. It's one of my absolute favorites. It's available out there on the web for free on the ASCD website. You can go look it up. And it's one that I still refer back to just because I think he gets this great perspective on what works well in feedback, and you can just digest it really quickly. And so timely feedback is one of the things that he talks about. And so like I was saying earlier, with a lot of our tech tools that we have, we're able to provide lots of this feedback in an instant, either by pre-writing some of the feedback and then having a tech tool deliver it, or you know, sometimes being able to just deliver it, you know, in time right there with students. AI, of course, is giving us more ability to do that as well. Rochelle asked, what was the name of that book again? The thing I was referencing was, it's an article by the late Grant Wiggins on the ASCD blog, and it's like 7 keys to effective feedback or something like that. So just do a simple Google search of that, and that should probably do it. Oh, and Joan, thank you so much. Joan Liu gave us the link to it, and that is it right there. 7 keys to effective feedback. So there you go. If you want to go check it out, it's right there in the chat. So anyway, how can we do this with Google Classroom? So, and just with our Google Workspace and Google Tools and everything, I'm going to share 2 things in the slides, but I would love for you to hop into the chat. And if you want to share how you provide timely feedback to students, either with Google or without, I'd love to see that. So I'll keep eyes on the chat there to see what you'll have to share. But this is a feature in Google Classroom that is sort of newish. It's something that I know teachers have been begging for. You know, there are lots of third-party tools out there that let us do these practice sets, that let us do some of these practice activities, some of those third-party tools, and they do a great job. But I know lots of folks wanted it to be kind of like baked into Google Classroom, and practice sets can let you do that. And I actually wanted to kick this over to Josh real quick. He has a little bit more experience with practice sets than I do, but Josh, wouldn't you agree that practice sets are kind of made for timely feedback, right?
Yes. So I had a teacher friend of mine who would do like close watching. She would watch her students as they were like doing some cognitive processing. And I was studying her students. And I was like, what are you doing when you're doing that? And she was like, Josh, listen, if you really lean in and you watch your students as they're processing this stuff, they will communicate to you where the mental breakdown is taking place. And you can zero in there like a laser and fix that specific thing. And when I watch practice sets, this is like the AI version of that. Because the practice set not only knows the learning target, but it also knows what might be going wrong with the student responses, and it can serve them up specific tailored content to try to dial in, or excuse me, like reteaching concepts to try to dial in and fix that specific issue that they're experiencing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of walk folks through practice sets just a little bit then, Josh. You've got a couple of slides in here. You wanna kind of chat with the folks here about it?
Yeah, so I normally show this in the context of math just because it's so easy to understand in math context, but it's not specific to math. You can do this with other things too. So essentially, if you know the Google Forms look and feel, you have a good head start on practice sets. So think of it as like a Google form. It's going to start with you putting in questions, and then it will start to generate what they call skills that align to that. You and I would call them standards, but it'll say, hey, it looks like in this problem you're solving two-step equations or whatever. So it starts to align to those content standards. Then you put in from the teacher side, you put in the answer, the correct answer. Okay, and this can come in through like you're manually entering them like you might with a Google form, or it could be, in education we don't say worksheets anymore, but it could be like you scan in a worksheet and it'll scan that and understand where the questions are, and it'll serve up it'll take those questions and generate them into your practice set. And then you assign it to students just like you assign anything else, right? And then as the student begins to complete this, actually go to that next slide, Matt. As the students start to complete the assignment, it'll tell them if they're right or wrong, obviously, that's no surprise, but it'll also start to communicate to them where they went wrong. And it will give them either curated YouTube videos that you don't have to go find this stuff. It'll do it for you. It'll find the YouTube videos that are relevant. Sorry, there's a group that's missing, like right at the exact moment.
Oh, you're good.
Right
We
now,
can't
so
hardly hear them.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So it'll give them, as they get questions right or wrong, it'll give them retaught concepts, in the form of a card or in the form of a YouTube video that you don't have to go find these yourself. Practice sets will give you videos that align to this. Hit that next one, Matt, because the next slide, this next one is so important. Okay, so you can start to see insights from your group, and it'll say, hey, like Taylor B is struggling with this concept. Like they're consistently getting this wrong. Now, as a math teacher, like to do item analysis, like hit that next slide too, and I'll show you this other piece. So to do like a full-blown item analysis where you can start to see trends throughout your classroom takes a lot of time. I love to think that maybe I was doing more of that, but if I'm being honest, I probably rarely did that, or I didn't do it as often as I should. But these insights give us, the insight dashboard gives us exactly that, insights into our instructional practice so that we can start to make really informed decisions about how we're going about educating those. And then that card above it, the insights into a specific student and the concepts that they're struggling with too. This is the kind of stuff, Matt. It reminds me of like the George Jetsons. If you ever watched that commercial, like or that television show, like it's the kind of stuff that my grandparents would have dreamt about, and we actually have these tools to teach with right now. It blows me away.
Yo, yeah, me too. I mean, you look at all of this stuff, and I mean, I was looking at the suggested videos and everything, and the insights, the fact that it identifies many students are struggling with number 3 or whatever, like it kind of feels like it's almost like a teaching assistant, like a free, well, not free, but like a teaching assistant that joins alongside you to be able to to be able to give you some of that guidance and everything. And there's more and more places that I think that's starting to show up.
Yeah, as an educator, like I've always
So,
wanted to put most of
yeah.
my, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Matt, but I was just saying, as an educator, I want to put most of my energy into my instructional practice. And I don't prefer to do, hour after hour of data disaggregation and item analysis, although that is part of what we do. But to think that maybe I could use AI or some Google tools to kind of automate that and then give me really quality feedback on what's happening in my classroom, then I can put more of my energy into my practice.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Michael asked a question. Michael Johnson in the chat said, aside from math, are there any other subject areas where you see practice sets working well? Josh, I'll come back to you on this for just a second, but I was thinking, for instance, I mean, anything that you want to form long-term memory and that you want to get some of that repetition with. So I could see it with, like vocabulary words, states and capitals, elements on the periodic table, I mean, math, obviously it works well. Anything, equation based or something where students have got to work through problems to learn a process or whatever. I think really any of that stuff is really good. Josh, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, and I think about it more in terms of the question types. So, like, you're going to have some short constructive response and some multiple choice. That kind of stuff is going to work really well in practice sets. There are other types of learning experiences that are more project based that practice sets is not going to be that helpful for. But anything that I can ask in the form of a multiple choice question, or anything that I could ask in a short answer question,
Yeah.
or a grid response, what the typical question types are in Google Forms, it's going to be those same question types. So if I can ask it in that form, practice sets can handle it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, this has been great, Josh. Thanks for popping in and sharing a little bit about those practice sets. So, like we were saying earlier, when it comes to that timely feedback, it's really nice to be able to have that. One other thing, when it comes to timely feedback, if we want to use that sort of brain-friendly strategy, of course, you got lots of Google Classroom add-ons that you can use that basically take some of your favorite third-party tools, some of those ed tech tools and apps, and embed them right into Google Classroom. And one of my favorites for getting that timely feedback is EdPuzzle. I'm curious to see in the chat how many of you are big EdPuzzle users. Like if you use it a little, if you use it a lot, if you love it. What you use it for, that kind of stuff. Yeah, already starting to see Dorothy loves it. Denise loves EdPuzzle with capital letters. Big fan from Amber. Yeah, I'm seeing it already, which is fantastic. And so you probably already know that if you have a video, and for the longest time we would just show these YouTube videos in front of class, but if you have a video, you can use EdPuzzle to interrupt that video every so often to ask questions or to add additional information. EdPuzzle's done such a good job of adding more and more things, so that really it's almost like a version of you in the classroom showing a video and stopping it and giving students extra information, or stopping it and asking them questions. But it takes that particular activity and it sort of like scales it so that students can do it anytime, which really makes you and your instruction more accessible all the time, which is fantastic. Deborah says, I use the EdPuzzle-like features in Nearpod to add questions and videos. Yeah, exactly. So like it's the same concept, right? It's the same idea. And what are we doing? We're providing students with that real-time feedback and making it more interactive. So so when it comes to that, those are some of my favorites. I did notice earlier that as far as suggestions from all of you, Jennifer said Google Forms to be able to capture information from students and provide them real-time feedback. Carrie said mostly comments on docs or other apps. And comments are a super basic thing that really do let us provide that feedback quickly and easily. And then she says, or DMs, like direct messages through Hapara or Clever. And then Beth even said, before practice sets, I used forms to create like to provide instant feedback, using response validation. Yeah, so if the student doesn't get it right, you can type in a little, a little message to deliver to them related to that. Or branching, so that if students pick between several answers, it'll send you to almost like a page that's based on, that's based on them either getting the right or the wrong answer. So really, really good stuff there. All right, we got to keep moving because remember, I got 4 of these things. We're through 20 minutes of the webinar already, and we got through 1. But I promise you, we will get through all the good stuff and I won't rush. So this next one, this is something that is super brain friendly, that I am a huge fan of, that has been around forever. I mean, teachers have been using this for the longest time, but there's some really neat applications of it, and that's retrieval practice. So retrieval practice is this simple concept that, like it says on the screen, when students recall new learning from memory. It's that simple idea of whenever you've learned something, afterwards, if you're able to recall it from your memory instead of looking it up in notes or looking up in a textbook, that's what starts to create that groove in the brain, so to speak. That's where you're strengthening the synapses that the brain uses to recall that information so that it's easier to remember. We've been doing this with flashcards for the longest time. And even though flashcards are super low tech and a strategy that's been around for a while, it's because they work. It's because they do create that long-term memory. And of course, retrieval practice doesn't have to be flashcards. It doesn't have to be formal, and it's most effective when it's ungraded. Oh, and Carla in the chat just called out my favorite book for this kind of learning. She says, read Powerful Teaching by Pooja Agarwal and Patrice Bain. Powerful Teaching. Oh my goodness, if you want to learn about good, sticky, brain-friendly learning and all of the strategies that you can use to help students remember things, that's a really good one. So I highly recommend that. So anyhow, so with retrieval practice, what are some ways that we can use it? What are some ways that we can make that work? I've got the EdPuzzle Google Classroom add-on here again. I think that one got duplicated. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna come back. Okay, I remember. Forgive me, I got in my haste of making these slides. I was gonna put in a different Google Classroom add-on. So this is duplicated, but I'll just tell you what it was gonna be. It's going to talk about Pear Deck. And someone in the chat earlier just mentioned Nearpod. So obviously Pear Deck and Nearpod are very similar in lots of ways. So you can use either one of these. But if you want to have students recall things, I love Pear Deck for this because you have a variety of different question types. And so you can have every student all at the same time recalling. By driving that recall through Pear Deck questions. It can be multiple choice. It can be open-ended. You can have them draw. You can have them drag like a dot or something. And so what are you doing there? A, you're having students do that retrieval practice, but then B, you're also providing them real-time feedback because you can see their responses right away. What I love about Pear Deck, and again, if you missed it earlier, the slide on your screen doesn't match up with this, but what I do love about Pear Deck is that you can build out all of those slides yourself, and it really does make learning interactive. So Denise is like, you're sharing all my go-to tools. Well, of course, right? Because they're good, because they're the best ones. So I did want to share with you a template of mine that I kind of like. And there's a link right there that you can go follow if you want right now to make yourself a copy of this, so that you can use it if you want to. And this was actually based on what we were talking about, Pooja Agarwal and Patrice Bain's book, Powerful Teaching. I based this template off of a strategy that I learned, from them. And so this template is called the Now Then Way Back Google Slides template. And you can find it at ditch.link/now then, where you can make a copy of it yourself. And so here's all that I'm doing with this is, I'm just picking a topic that we've studied very recently. That's the now. We're picking a topic that we studied in the not too distant past. That's the then. And then we're picking something that we studied way back, which could be a month ago or last semester or last school year or years ago. And so with all of those, if I pick those 3 topics and I give students this blank template and I say, tell me 3 things you remember about each of these topics, something we studied recently, something we studied not long ago, something we studied long ago. If we do that, that's strengthening those recall skills. And it's just a little protocol, a little thing that you can use. And if you get in the habit of doing it and using it on a regular basis, you're encouraging students to strengthen long-term memory about things you studied a long time ago, but it also strengthens the stuff that you've studied more recently. So it's just this little simple framework that you can use over and over and over again if you want to. Amber says, and when they say you never learned about that, you're like, are you sure about that? Yeah, and see, when we're not using this study strategy, it's something that can be kind of missed out on. So this now then way back slides template, of course, built in Google Slides, can be assigned very easily through Google Classroom, and you can edit this template however you want. So, all right, let's keep moving. See, that first one took us 20 minutes to get through. The second one only took us 6. So we're in good shape here. Let's go on to number 3. And this is one of my absolute favorites. This is something that, when I've taught high school Spanish, I've, just tried to center so much around this, of the students being able to, apply what they've learned and kind of like make meaning of it by making something. So it's this idea of learning by making. Like it says here on the screen, when students do hands-on learning and they create something with what they've learned, it can lead to deeper understanding. Plus it makes learning fun. Seymour Papert was really, really big into that idea of, I think he called it constructionism, that idea of making learning or making meaning by creating something, building that learning by building something, by making something. And so, and I know a lot of us right now are trying to understand, with all those AI assistants out there, like ChatGPT and Bard and Bing and all of those, we're trying to figure out, like, are there some ways that we can make sure that the students are doing the thinking, the students are doing the learning? Well, one really effective teaching strategy that kind of lends itself to that is by having students create something, make something creative based on what they've learned. And so what are some ways we can do that with Google Workspace? A Google Classroom add-on that I'm a big fan of is the Adobe Express Google Classroom add-on. I don't know if you all are familiar with Adobe Express. Do we have anybody, same thing as we did before, like jump into the chat and let me know if you've used Adobe Express before. But what I really like about it is that it is this suite of tools created by Adobe where you can make images, you can make videos. There's all of these different creative tools that you can use, and they continue to add more and more to them all the time. But it's a really great creative suite that students can use to make things based on what they're learning. The other thing I love about Adobe Express too is that it has Adobe stock, all of the stock images that you usually pay money for. It has Adobe stock built right into it. So students have access to all of these great Adobe stock photos and everything. So oh yeah, I've got lots of folks that are fans of Adobe Express. I'm seeing some Canva fans in the house also, and Canva's fantastic as well. It doesn't have like an official Google Classroom add-on built into Google Classroom like Adobe Express does, or at least I don't think it does. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on that. But really, you can use it as a third-party tool and just have students jump out to it. And of course, with Adobe Express and Canva, you can set it up so that all students have access to it. You just got to have your school admins sign the school up for it, and then all students have access to it. And so let's see. Oh, Victoria's a big fan of the text to image, like the AI image generators where you type text and it creates an image. I also have to say real quick, if you've been noticing these pictures that I've had on these, sort of these main point slides, those were all created by AI image generators. I'm a little bit of a Mid-Journey geek now. I say geek, not because I'm really good at creating prompts, but because I love using it. And so I use Mid-Journey to create all of those images through AI. And of course, you know, the Canva and Adobe Express have that built in as well, which is super cool. And then Ben said Canva is completely free for schools and dropped a link in there, which is totally true. Glad you brought that up. And he says, and now they have the new Magic Write AI feature with amazing editing capabilities. Yeah, so many more AI tools are being dropped into a lot of these features. Now, sometimes people look at that and they go, well, if it's got AI, then what are the kids doing with it? Well, there's still some deep learning and still some creation skill development coming, even if you have students using some of the AI features in there, because you get to focus on the process of creating, and then you get to focus on the message and making sure that everything that's in it is exactly what you want. So just because AI is being used in some of these tools doesn't mean that students aren't doing the thinking, you know. And then Jen mentioned AI settings are in place for students since young ones are still not legally allowed to use it. Yeah, there are still terms and conditions for the students that are able to do it. But if you have something like Adobe Express or Canva in place, they've got it all set up so that everybody is using it the way that they're supposed to. So, and you can actually learn more about Google Classroom add-ons. I talked about it through the lens of Adobe Express. But you can learn more about Google Classroom add-ons with that link right there, which is ditch.link/add-ons. So feel free to go check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about Google Classroom add-ons. And then Kate from Trafera did just drop a link. I think she just did. I'm looking in the chat now. Yeah, there it is. She's got a link that kind of breaks down what's available at each level of Workspace for education, because some folks were asking about the Google Classroom add-ons. So. Okay, look on to this next one, which is another way that you can have students do some of that creative work. And this one, I'm a little bit biased on this because this comes right out of my Ditch That Textbook website, but this is our template library, which you can go to at ditchthattextbook.com/templates if somebody wants to drop a link into the chat to that. This is where we've created tons of these Google Slides and PowerPoint templates. And actually, you got to see one of them just moments ago, the now, then, way back template. That's just one example of the dozens and dozens and dozens of free Google Slides templates that we have available in our template library. And if you see on the screen right there, you see all those little blue-green circles. Those are buttons that let you jump down to different sections of the template library to make it a little easier to choose. But all you do here is you go find one of these templates and then you make a copy of it in Google Slides. And of course, then you can edit it to make it whatever you need for your students and then just assign it straight through Google Classroom. And one of my favorite parts of the template library is the social media templates, which are all of these Google Slides templates that we designed up to look like students' favorite social media sites. So it makes them feel like they're using some of their favorite social media, only they're actually using Google Slides. So it's kind of a neat way to be able to frame learning as well. And Mike says, I use the heck out of those. And please do keep using them, which is great. But yeah, and with a lot of these anyway, if you click through to a specific template and you can't figure out exactly how you might use it, there are links to blog posts that talk about those templates and how you might use them, so you can get some of those ideas. So oh, and Denise was saying, I use and share these templates all the time. So it's an amazing free resource. Yeah, and they're all totally free. I know some people try to put them up on like stuff like this up on their teachers pay teachers pages, but I'm like, nah, you guys spend enough money out of your classroom as it is out of pocket. Like, we don't need to charge for these. We'll just make them free. So anyway, that template library is another way that we can have students creating with what they've learned. So now we're on to the fourth one. This is the last way that we can use those Google Workspace tools to do some of that verbal visual learning. And so I'm a big fan of this one, and it is very brain friendly. I don't know if you've heard of dual coding. If you've ever been to one of my presentations and we talk about the power of visuals, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but it's this thing called dual coding theory. It was coined by Alan Pavio years ago. And it tells us that, like it says on the screen here, we store new learnings via text. Things that we learn through text, we store it differently in our brain than if we learn it through images. It's almost like you're storing it in a different part of your brain. Things that we've learned through text via or versus things that we've learned through images. So the nice thing about that is if we have a nice verbal visual mix where we're having students learn things via text and images, that can help students retain new information longer. I always like to explain it this way, that if you have a key to your house and you carry it in your purse or your pocket, there's probably a good chance that you've got one hidden under the mat or under a rock behind like your back door or you've got another one maybe stashed someplace else, so that in the moment when you really need that key, there's a couple places that you can find it. That's kind of the way that dual coding works too. It's almost like you're hiding information in your brain in a couple different places, or in your students' brains, so that when they need it, they can get it, right? So how can we make the most of that verbal visual learning with some of our Google Workspace tools? Well, I got a couple of ideas for you. Again, we're going back to Google Classroom add-ons. And I did want to mention, when it comes to these Google Classroom add-ons, what's nice about them is that if your school has the Google Workspace package that allows you to use add-ons, the benefit of the add-ons is that all of these third-party tools live inside of Google Classroom. Students don't need to jump out of Google Classroom to be able to use them. Now, if your school does not have Google Classroom add-ons, if they don't have the package that allows for you to use add-ons, the good news is that all of these third-party tools I've been talking about, like EdPuzzle and Pear Deck and Adobe Express, and in this case, the Noun Project, all of these, you can just jump out to their independent websites and just go use them. The main benefit of Google Classroom add-ons is that everything is just under one roof. Students don't have to leave Google Classroom with that. So anyway, Noun Project, which made Joan very, very excited. I see all of your capital letters, Joan, and the smiling and the nodding. Yes, I'm with you on that one. My heart with the Noun Project, like, oh my goodness. But so yeah, the Noun Project is a resource I've been using for the longest time. Like it says, over 5 million icons with icons and photos for everything. So if you are creating student resources or teaching resources and you want that verbal visual mix that we were just talking about with the dual coding, an easy way to do that is to add icons with your text. If you're creating presentation slides, add icons. If you're creating teaching resources or handouts, add icons. If you're creating student activities to do, add icons with your text. The other thing that's really beneficial with this too is that you have students who have English as a new language. If they're trying to improve their English language skills, this is just another way to make your teaching and learning materials more accessible too. And it really benefits everybody. All levels of students of all different native languages. Everybody benefits from this verbal visual mix. So, and there are lots of other places that you can go to get icons too. For instance, another favorite of mine is Flat Icon, which you can find at flaticon.com. That's one. See, the Noun Project has mostly like black and white icons or single color icons. Flat Icon has lots of multicolor ones and lots of icon packs and everything. And then Jen was mentioning Emojipedia, which is a new one I wasn't as familiar with. So, and then Melissa says, I love Icons 8. See, there's lots of places that you can get these. The nice thing about the Noun Project, though, is that it's embedded into Google Classroom. It's like integrated into it as a Google Classroom add-on. So, so if you've got the access to add-ons, you can have students interacting with those Noun Project icons right there, which is super cool. And Tammy said, I place icons in front of topics and also in front of the assignment name. Yeah, those icons and those emojis are really, really good for that. Carla mentioned, can you speak about having the add-on packages as part of the paid version? And I think we've got some slides actually coming up in a little bit that are going to speak to that a little bit. So I'm going to let Josh and Kate handle that one in just a couple of minutes. So, but I've just got the one more thing that I was going to share with you all when it comes to the verbal visual mix that I really like. And that's the idea of infographics. And infographics are something that I like to make with a combination of icons and text, just a little snippet of text to go with an icon. I'll give you an example. If you were going to have students write an essay or a document or a page about something, instead of having them write it in a big block of text, what if you have them take little snippets of that text, pair it with an icon, and throw it into an infographic, kind of like this? What you see on the screen right here is an infographic that I made years ago for the QBold conference. And I just paired a little icon from the Noun project with a little snippet of text. And, talk about a verbal visual way to have students show what they've learned, which is pretty cool. If you want to have students create these, of course, you can just have them start with a blank Google slide and do icons and text, icons and text, icons and text. Or if you want, you can go back to that template library I was talking about, which is I'm going to put it in the chat, ditchthattextbook.com/templates. You can go there, and I've got some drag and drop infographics templates that have a whole bunch of icons on the side, and then other things you might want to use to build out infographics. And so all your students would have to do there is just drag things onto the slides to be able to make these infographics. So anyway, that's yet another way. I like what Denise just threw in too. She said, here's a fun emoji smasher from Google. And it's at emojikitchen.dev. That's a new one to me. I'm going to have to go check that out. And then Carly even mentioned the Edu protocol called Numbers Mania that fits really nicely in with all of this too. So anyway, that sort of wraps it up here. All of these sticky, brain-friendly learning ideas. We talked about timely feedback. We talked about retrieval practice. We talked about learning by making. And then we also talked about the verbal visual learning, and then all of those examples and everything. Now, if you've made it this far, I've got something that I want to share with you all that might be helpful for you. I mean, we already talked about the free Starbucks, right? I'm going to give you something else for free. And I just dropped a link to it into the chat. That's my email newsletter. So if you've liked the ideas that you saw in this webinar and you would like to get a pipeline of things just like that into your inbox, we usually send the email newsletter about 3 times a week with practical teaching ideas just like that. So you can go to ditchthattextbook.com/join to get signed up for that email newsletter. And when you do, you actually get a bunch of free ebooks full of teaching ideas, like the ones that you see on the screen right there. So I kind of think that with those free ebooks, that if you get those and scan through them, it's almost like having you write your lesson plans for the next couple of days, because there's a ton of teaching ideas in there that you can use. Carla says, I would recommend joining lots of resources. So there you go. Approved by Carla also. And Sally says, love all of your resources too. So if you're not in on the email newsletter, I highly suggest that, just so you can keep up. And also you learn about things like this webinar. I shared about this webinar on my email newsletter. And so I know some of you are here because of that. So you get the benefit of that as well. So anyway, that wraps it up for me. I see Josh's smiling face back on the camera. So I'm going to kick it over to him real quick. So he's going to be able to answer some of your Google Classroom, Google Workspace questions. And then he's going to tell you just a teeny tiny bit about Trafera also.
Yeah, dude, man, I mean, you crushed it. I mean, you absolutely, and I knew you would, but like, gosh, I get so inspired every time. And you won't say this, so I don't mind to say it. I'm sure that the book, I bought your books on Amazon, but they're probably sold on your website as well. Or
I usually just send people to Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. So the newsletter is great. Do go get on the newsletter, obviously, but go ahead and pick up the books too. Just that textbook, obviously. But then the new AI book is like it's on my, I used to have it on my bookshelf, but now it's just like on my desk because I'm grabbing it all the time. I need to find that quote or find that moment of inspiration or whatever. So now it's just sitting down on my desk. Well, okay, so listen, there's a couple of really good questions. You guys are talking about, what's in the free version, what's in the paid version. Go ahead and we might have slides on this. Go ahead and maybe hit that next slide. Maybe we do. Oh, look at that. Is that it? What is that? Is that our slide? Dude,
Yes,
I love that. I haven't seen that. So let me tell you a little bit about Trafera. Then I'll back up and we'll talk about what's available in Workspace. So you're probably here because you're part of Matt's crew, and welcome. But if you've never heard of Trafera, we're an educational technology company partner with Google. Our bread and butter is like Google Chromebooks. We're the largest provider of Chromebooks in education in the nation. And my name is Josh, by the way, if we haven't met. I lead our education strategy for Trafera, and we're happy you're here. We're happy Matt's here. We're close partners with Matt, and we're working with Matt on a few different projects. And so here, I did see someone mentioned in the chat, like, what are we talking about? What version of Workspace? We sell Workspace for education. So if you're a decision maker, this is for you. But even if you're not a decision maker, and you're just someone who's out there influencing these types of decisions, listen up, because I want you to understand what's available in different forms of Workspace. Workspace is now sold in, it's like you got the free one, and then there's 3 different paid versions. I wouldn't worry about the first 2, because they're kind of, it's almost like they're one's kind of more focused on like security and like, Google admin console kind of stuff. The other one's more focused on teaching and learning, but just for like a little bit more, you get both of them combined in what's called Education Plus. That's the one that we sell the most of. That's the one, though we do sell all those. And if you guys have any questions about like what's available on which one or who you need to talk to, let us know. We can certainly help you with that. I just got a notification that said my internet connection is unreliable. Can you guys still hear me?
We can hear you. You were a little garbled there for just a moment, but we can still hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. So that's the big takeaway there, is that we do have the ability to connect you guys for any of those kinds of things. Hit that next slide, Matt. That might be it. Is it? Oh, is this the free trial? Okay, yeah. So there's a free trial. You can try this. If you want to try Education Plus for 90 days, you can certainly do that. And you can scan that QR code. It'll help you do that. And, you can go in, there's no obligation. We're not going to hold you to it or anything like that, but you can go and try these. So like you were talking about with Google Add-ons, that's available in Education Plus. All the teaching and learning features like originality reports, practice sets that I shared about, all that's available. I see that Kate put up this exit survey. Listen, this is the key to get the coffee. So you complete this, and then you are on your way to getting coffee. Matt, I love it, dude. I love our time together. I think we need to do a lot more of this.
Yeah, it was
Super
great.
fun.
I love it. I always love getting to share stuff like this too. And I'm such a a brain research, brain friendly learning type of like geek. I'm not an expert at it, but I always love learning more about it and everything. And so this was a great topic, and I appreciate you guys bringing me in to do it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Matt and I, we all end up talking about that stuff a lot. We push up our nerd glasses and start talking about neuroscience.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone,
all right,
for
Kate,
coming out today to join our webinar. And just to reiterate some of those points that Josh was making when he got a little jumbled, I have put a link in the chat that kind of breaks down all the differences of the levels of Google Workspace for Education. So if you're wondering which of the tools that we talked about today come with Workspace for free versus what comes at kind of those enhanced levels, you can just grab that guide. It'll break it down on one of the pages. It has a table that you can see exactly what's on each version. And I hope that's super helpful for understanding what you have access to versus what you might have to upgrade to. And then I also put a link in the chat there for this free trial upgrade. So if your school is interested in trying the tools that we talked about today, you can do so for free, test them out, see if you like them, see how they transform your classrooms and all that good stuff. But otherwise, the exit survey is up. You just take that. That's how you get your coffee, like Josh said. And I'm going to do another big, huge thank you to Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. Josh, thank you so much for being here as well. But mostly thank you to everyone who attended. And we're so happy to have gotten a chance to meet all of you today. And we hope to see you again.
Appreciate that. And hey, real quick, I was just curious. You said that the exit survey is up. Where did they find that exit survey again?
It should have just popped up in a window, and it looks like a lot of people are taking it. So,
oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It just pops up.
All right. This has been fun. Thanks again, Kate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. See you soon.